I'm here with Minister Reparations and Brother Cam. They're about to go into the session here at 145B here at the session that the Congressional Black Caucus has put together. How you brothers doing? Brother Ari, say your name and who you are.
Ari Reparations, National Co-Chair in COBRA, National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America.
And Brother Cam?
Brother Cam Howard, the Chairman of the Legislative Commission of COBRA, National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America.
For the people watching this, what's important for them to know about reparations, Brother Cam, and legislation?
Reparations is still a just demand, and we're still on top of it, and we are clear that the crimes against humanity deserve to be compensated, and that we're here to make sure that this legislation does not falter, that this legislation remains in place, and that we can continue to mobilize our people around getting this legislation passed. Not in this session, to build the momentum to get this passed in the next legislative session.
Minister Ari?
Yes, sir.
Tell us why should people care about reparations in 2012 as we move into the end of this year?
Well, they must care about reparations because if they understand the damage done to us, they have no alternative but to care about it. And here at the conference, what I want to do is put forth three things. One, that an appropriate apology is not enough without an appropriate reparations. Two, that we must mainstream, that the Congressional Black Caucus must mainstream the reparation movement that passed H.R. 40 by communicating with their black state legislators, their city legislators, and have them to set up a bill similar to H.R. 40 on the state and local level. The third piece is that the Congressional Black Caucus must now call for a public dialogue on a reparation accords for Black in America based on the historical damage done to us.
And you're about to go into your session here. I'm looking forward to going in with you guys. So we're going to follow you in and see what you have to say. And where can people follow up to find out more about this?
Well, 215-850-1699 or in CobraPhiladelphia.org or in Cobra.org. That's NCOBRA.org or Philadelphia in CobraPhiladelphia.org.
Brother Ken, any closing remarks you'd like to make?
Well, we must understand that for legislation to be passed, legislators have to pass the legislation. And if we want a legislative sign for reparations, first on that list of legislators must be the Congressional Black Caucus. We need full support, 100% support from the Legislative Black Caucus. And in order to get that, the people out there must contact their black elected officials and get them signed on to this bill, because you cannot have legislation without legislators attached to it.
Thank you both very much. We'll see you on the inside.
Okay, man.
Norman Bond signing off.
H.R. 40, creating a dialogue on the legacy of slavery. Very critical topic. Now, before we begin, we also just need to pay homage to the congressman who keeps this alive every year. And let me just give you my candid assessment, that we are at a low point right now in the last 20-25 years in terms of energy and the priority of reparations in Black America. But that's my cold, straightforward assessment. And it's my view that we need a jolt. That we need something else that's going to kickstart it. Because the other reality is, with the African American in the White House, there is this whole notion of what do we do with that? We can raise this, don't raise that. Post-racial society, and this is not easy. This is more difficult terrain than we were facing had somebody else won the election, in fact. And so we need a jolt. And let me just quickly point out that, you know, when State Senator Bill Owens decided to introduce a resolution in Massachusetts, what? That gave us a jolt. Everybody started talking about it around the country. Deidre, is it Pellman Farmer or Farmer Pellman? Forgive me if I mispronounce it, but y'all know that case. That came out, boom, jolt. Randall Robinson came out with the debt, what? Jolt. It was on fire. Then in COBRA, had its own lawsuit. Professor Ogletree, Randall Robinson, a number of other people, we had a jolt. Reparations was very much out there being discussed. It ain't being discussed very much now, to be perfectly honest about it. H.R. 40 having a dialogue on the impact of slavery. And not only that, we need to go to some people like the National Council. It needs to be broad. The National Council of Churches and/or the Church Women United, the United Methodist Church. We need some white progressive allies, or at least some faith leaders, even if they may not necessarily say that they're for reparations, to at least take on the questioning. And then we take a road show. We do a road show, and we go to these cities, highly publicized, well-organized, PowerPoints, whatever you want to do, and we pull out the people, and we use this as an opportunity to jolt the conversation. And my recommendation is that we plan it, that we do it after the election, because we don't want to be in the middle of the discussion about if are we for, are we. We need to do it on the other side of the election. Because who knows? We don't know in the second term, when our brother feels a little bit more free, he may do a lot of things that he's not doing now in the second term. So I'm suggesting we do it after the 2012 election. And by the way, the State of the Black World Conference 3 is going to be after the election. It will be right here in Washington, D.C., and we're prepared to help kick it off at the State of the Black World Conference 3 in November and December after the election. So I wanted to start, and I am going to follow up with the staff of Congressman Conyers and Keenan on that proposal, because we need systemic, organized, methodical processes that will give us a new jolt. Now, it may not be this, but we need to be thinking about what the jolt is, because right now, it seems to me that we're at least where we're at a low ebb. And that doesn't mean that that's a problem, because when it gets tough, when things get tough, those who are down get going. So I'm going to start on my far left, which is a good place, and simply come down this side, self-introduce yourself, and then lay out your perspective on the status, quickly, shortly, very succinctly, of where you think the reparations movement.
Okay. Greetings, family. Thank you for all coming out and showing your support for this important conversation. As Dr. Ron Daniels said, my name is Jumoke Betayo. Right now, I serve in the capacity of the National Secretary of NCOBRA. I've also been very active with the Atlanta chapter of NCOBRA as the male co-chair. Our organization, NCOBRA, is set up with dual leadership. We have male and female co-leadership at the leadership position. So I've served in that position. And basically, I guess I would say following in the footsteps of my father, I've primarily been a community activist. I've done training and community development with various organizations, Federation Southern Cooperatives, with the Black Farmers, with MACE, with ACORN, with various other organizations in the community. To respond to the question on the floor, I would say that we could say that it is somewhat of a lull in the reparations movement at this time. I would agree with that assessment. But I also feel like one of the things that when you spoke about those different jolts, I would just like to add the fact that in between those jolts and during those jolts, NCOBRA was doing a lot of work on the ground to raise the issue of reparations, and many other organizations as well. And I think it's that consistent grassroots organizing that we were doing in between. I think the real jolt came, in the African American community with the passage of the Japanese reparations bill, and then out of that, you have the organizing of the National Coalition of NCOBRA, and even before that, you have precedents as well. I'm sitting here looking at Quick Mother and others smiling at me. So there's always been people who have been doing grassroots work to advance this conversation on reparations, and I don't think we should ignore that has also been, filled in the gaps between those jolts that you described. I'll stop there.
Good evening. My name is Tom Costello. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I lead the Michigan Roundtable. We're a 70-year-old organization dealing with human rights and social justice. And thank you to the Congressman for inviting me. Two of my colleagues were in his office on Monday, and we were talking about a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Detroit. It will be held November 4th and 5th. We will kick it off. We will seat 9 commissioners. This will be the second ever Truth and Reconciliation Commission in the United States. Greensboro dealt with the 1979 Communist Party worker killings in Greensboro. And we come at this, I guess, a different way. when you look at the resolution, there's talk in there of education and addressing the lingering effects of slavery. And in Detroit, we are one of the most segregated cities in the United States, unfortunately. And the way we're addressing it is through this Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We believe where you live shouldn't determine how you live. And through the years and years of redlining by the Federal Housing Administration in Detroit, that's how we became most segregated. So, simply put, the commission's meant to look at the history, to acknowledge the truth, and quite frankly, for my people, acknowledging it, they don't even know it. So this will be a good exercise for our community. Then we want to take some action, and that is to build a regional plan of equity that comes out of that and addresses the structural and institutional racism of our government and people of privilege, white people in those areas. So I'll stop here.
And I am Diana Kimball, the female national co-chair for NCOBRA, National Coalition of Blacks for Reparation in America. And H.R. 40, which is a study bill on reparations, on the effect of slavery. And we should not be afraid of the word reparation. And I think that's what the problem is, that we are afraid of that word. To say reparations for an act that was committed. We know what happened, and we are afraid to continue to say as a people. And NCOBRA will continue to do what we have done for over 20 years, and that is organizing, mobilizing, and educating African people and all people. What we suffer from is because of slavery, and because of free labor, and because of genocide, taking away our culture, our names, and our wealth, and placing it in the hands of someone else. And our children need to know this. All of the problems with the drugs, the crimes, and everything could be brought to a minimum once we learn to love us and do what it is that we know how to do from creation without the oppression of the laws of this land. H.R. 40 needs to be passed as a bill so that we can continue to hold hearings across the nation. In my town of only 1,600 people, Colfax, Louisiana, where only 8 years after slavery a massacre happened that helped to bring back, push back Reconstruction and start Jim Crow. In that little town, we still suffer from that oppression. I live there every day. I'm a farmer. I'm rebuilding the farm, my grandfather's farm. And because he was not allowed the wealth and the money as other farmers, we're struggling. The big farmers are doing fine. The colleges are supporting. They're getting grant money. Everything is fine with the large farmers. But the small black farmers are not getting the money. And I see this on a daily basis as I walk down the street. In my town, there's a sign by Louisiana that's put up that at the crossroads of track that says it's a 14,000-acre plantation. So I still live on a plantation in Louisiana. You know that Louisiana has the worst statistics for prison. It's modern-day slavery there. So anyway, as you push and call to and support John Conyers on this H.R. 40 bill, support him, call in, get everybody to call in, we can have all of the problems, the wealth, 5 injury areas, the education, the wealth and poverty, health, crime, punishment, and people who can all be done passing this bill.
You were really asking about the status question, so
okay,
you get into your presentation now, it's good, but we want to get the last 2 minutes, and you'll be able to really get mine.
My name is Ari Moretazan. I'm the newly elected co-chair of NCOBRA, and I want to address the status question, and it's good because I came prepared to do a whole broad but specific piece. And this is what I want to give the task before the Congressional Black Caucus. And that is that we must now mainstream the reparations movement. Well, what does that mean? It means that the Congressional Black Caucus must take the lead, not leave the Honorable John Conyers alone. But this year is the only year that no one has sponsored H.R. 40. So I'm proposing that the Congressional Black Caucus speak to the legislators at the state level, speak to the legislators at the city level, and encourage them to put forth a bill similar to H.R. 40 on the city and state level. This begins to mainstream the reparation movement. It begins to build the groundswell where a dialogue for reparational court for blacks in America can take place. And I will continue to add to that as we move back through the way that we're moving on this panel discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Nikichi Taifa, and I was trying to do the math, and I said, God, I must not be subtracting correctly or whatever. But, oh my goodness, I've been working on this issue for 36 years. And I said, maybe I got the zeros right. I got 26, but actually it was 36. Well, 36 years. And actually I studied at the feet of Dr. Imari Abubakari Obadeli, who really is the individual who helped to catapult this issue into the limelight in the latter part of the, not in the latter, middle, whatever, of the 20th century here. You know, with the establishment of NCOBRA, and we have the great, such as the great late Dr. Ron Walters, who shared many a panel here with Congressman John Conyers, of course, and Ron Daniels and the like, and some of the other greats who are no longer here, Maury and Sister Injuri Al-Ghahani, and I see Fire Rose Sanders there. But for years, I was the chair of the NCOBRA Legislative Commission, and also worked on the NCOBRA litigation strategy as well. But one of the main problems is we talk about status is every single issue that we have talked about here at the Congressional Black Caucus, and particularly within Congressman John Conyers' criminal justice brain trust, judiciary brain trust, whether we're talking about criminal justice issues, whether we're talking about health issues, whether we're talking about education issues, whether we're talking about non-consensual research in Africa, all of these issues have reparations overtones. They're all about what we're talking about. But we characterize reparations off in this little box and other things in other little boxes. All the work that Charlene and Pauline Sullivan are doing with the prisons, all of these are issues that deal with redress and questions that have been left unanswered since the time of the Civil War, and they need to be addressed in a holistic fashion like that, and not in a scary, old reparation, genocide, we can't talk about. All of these other issues that are mainstream issues are in fact reparations. And so I would just close by saying that what I would like in the future is that reparations not be the last panel at the end of the day that accidentally got left off the schedule, you know, but that it be front and center, and that we unashamedly and unabashedly embrace this. Congressman Conyers always said, H.R. 40 is just a study. It's just a discussion for us to talk about. Let's talk about it at the Black Caucus. And I'm going to have to go with my colleagues too, because I'm supposed to be helping with the homework. But I have looked at some of the presentations, particularly that Brother R.B. adds. And I mean, I'm telling you, there's some real solutions here that are on the table. And COBRA is not gone. All of the leadership that is here, front and center, let's move this into the future.
All right.
Thank you very much to all of you.